So when you think of Linux, your mind probably jumps straight to a server, right? Maybe something humming away in a data center. But what if I told you it's also the hidden engine that powers a massive chunk of modern networking? Today, we're going to peel back the curtain and show you how Linux is basically the secret sauce inside the very gear that connects our entire digital world.
Here's the plan. First, we'll uncover where Linux is hiding in plain sight. Then, we'll get our hands dirty with the modern tools for configuring a network host. After that, we'll see how devices actually make a connection, look at the services that automate everything, and finally, we'll talk about how you can see what's going on and lock your systems down tight.
All right, let's kick things off with a fact that honestly surprises a lot of people. That expensive network hardware you rely on every single day? Yeah, there's a very good chance it's running a Linux on the inside.
But I mean, where specifically? We're not just talking about some PC you've turned into an open-source firewall. No, it's way, way deeper and more integrated than that.
That's right, so many of the commercial routers and enterprise-grade firewalls, the Wi-Fi access points in your office, even massive storage area networks and critical load balancers, they're all running a specialized, stripped-down version of Linux right inside the box. So, knowing Linux isn't just for server admins anymore, it's for anyone who really wants to understand the network devices themselves.
Okay, so knowing Linux is inside the hardware is one thing, but how do we actually work with it on a host? Let's get practical and take a look at the modern toolkit, which thankfully has made life a lot simpler.
You know, if you've been in networking for a while, you definitely remember juggling a bunch of different commands. Ifconfig for your interfaces, netstat for connections, root for, well, routes. Today, all of that has been rolled into one powerful Swiss Army knife, the IP command. It handles everything. Just typing IP address is pretty much the new starting point for seeing how any system is connected.
And when you run that command, you're almost always going to see addresses from these private ranges, the ones defined way back in RFC 1918. The really crucial thing to get here is that these IPs are reserved just for your internal network. They can't be routed on the public internet, which means any company in the world can use the exact same 192.168.1.0 network internally without any conflicts. It's fundamental.
Now, you can still edit static config files like in the old days, but modern systems often use something more dynamic called Network Manager, and the command line tool to talk to it is NMCLI. This thing is awesome. It lets you change connections, swap IP addresses, and set gateways on the fly, all without needing to restart a bunch of services. It's a super powerful way to manage your network settings.
So our host is configured. Great. But how does it actually talk to another device on the exact same local network? To figure that out, we've got to move up the stack a little, from the physical connection to how data gets to the right application.
It all starts with ARP, which stands for Address Resolution Protocol. You could think of it like a roll call. If PC A wants to send a packet to PC B's IP address, it first has to know its physical hardware address, its MAC address. So it basically sends out a broadcast shouting to everyone on the local network, "Hey, who has IP 192.168.1.10? PCB hears that, and it replies directly, "That's me, here's my MAC." Then PCA saves that info for a little while so it doesn't have to ask again right away.
And this brings us to a really cool, simple security trick. See, every MAC address has a clue baked right into it. The first half is called the Organizationally Unique Identifier, or OUI, and it's assigned to a specific company, like Cisco or Apple or Dell. So if you're looking at your network logs, maybe from your DHCP server, you can instantly identify the vendor of every device that's connecting. See a brand you don't recognize? That might be something worth checking out.
Okay, so we've found the other machine's MAC address, we can send it packets, but how do we know if a specific service, like a web server, is actually running? For that, Netcat is your best friend. It's another one of those amazing Swiss Army knife tools. Just running nc-zv with a target IP and a port is a super fast way to do a quick port scan. You're basically just asking, "Hey, is anyone listening on this port?" And it'll tell you if it got a connection.
We've been talking about a lot of manual checks, but let's be real. Modern networks would grind to a halt without a layer of automation and translation services. These are the critical services humming in the background that make everything just work.
Let's start with DNS, the Internet's phone book. Now, securing DNS is hugely important, but you have to understand that we're really solving two different problems. On one side, you have DNS over HTTPS and DNS over TLS. These are all about privacy. They encrypt your requests so your internet provider can't easily see what websites you're visiting. Then you have DNSSEC. This is all about authenticity. It uses digital signatures to prove that the IP address you got back is legit and hasn't been hijacked. They're both important, but they are not the same thing.
Next step is DHCP, the service that automatically hands out IP addresses. And the biggest security threat here, by a long shot, is a rogue DHCP server. Think about it. If an attacker plugs their own DHCP server into your network, they can start telling new devices that they are the default gateway. And if they can do that, well, all of that victim's internet traffic is now flowing right through the attacker's machine. It's a classic man-in-the-middle attack. All right, we've got our services running, our hosts are connected, but how do we get any visibility into what's actually happening on the wire? And how do we harden the Linux hosts themselves? This last part is all about monitoring and defense.
Packet capture tools like TCP dump or Wireshark are basically your network superpowers. A perfect real-world example is to just watch a VoIP phone boot up. If you capture that traffic, you can literally see the whole story unfold. First, you'll see the DHCP request to get an IP address and other info. Then, you'll see the SIP traffic as it registers with the call manager. And finally, once a call starts, you'll see the RTP stream that carries the actual voice. It lets you dissect any network conversation step by step.
But you can't be staring at packets all day, right? That's where logging is essential. And the #1 rule of logging is to centralize it. Why? Because what's the first thing a smart attacker does after they break into a machine? They try to delete the local logs to cover their tracks. But if you've already shipped all those logs to a separate secure server, it's too late. You've still got the evidence.
And when it comes to securing the host itself, please don't try to reinvent the wheel. Follow established standards like the CIS benchmarks. For SSH, which is the gateway to your server, this means doing specific things. Disabling direct root login is a big one. It forces everyone to log in with their own account first, which gives you a much better audit trail. And enforcing strong ciphers and MACs stops an attacker from trying to downgrade the connection to an old, breakable encryption algorithm.
So what is the single most important thing you should do, the very first thing after you create a new host, especially if it's from a cloud provider's image? Update it. That's it. That standard image could be weeks or even months old, and it could be full of known vulnerabilities that have already been patched. Running system updates should always be priority #1. So we've seen that Linux isn't just an operating system. It's this incredibly powerful, versatile engine running just beneath the surface of almost all of our networks. It's a foundational layer that once you start to understand it, really unlocks a deeper appreciation for how everything connects. Which kind of leaves us with one final thought. If this is one hidden layer, what other fundamental technologies are out there powering our world just waiting to be explored?